podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 match report as we are looking back on another away defeat for Forest. 2-0 at Villa Park against Aston Villa, and it's a result which sees the Reds drop into the bottom three of the Premier League. Forest set up with a 3-4-1-2 at Villa Park, starting 11 of Navas in goal, Joe Worrell, Felipe Niakhate as a back three, Nico Williams and Harry Toffolo as wing backs, with Shelvey, Kouyate and Danilo in the middle, and then up front a two of Brennan Johnson and Morgan Gibbs-White. Forest were reasonably solid in the first half, got to the break at 0-0, and then a moment of madness from Jonjo Shelvey early in the second half gifted Villa the lead, and Forest never really came back from it. And Ollie Watkins set the seal on a Villa victory in injury time, with his goal making it 2-0. And another defeat for the travelling Reds fans to witness. It's Stephen, and I've got Tom with me to look back on the game. And we were among that visiting contingent, Tom. Lovely day in Birmingham weather-wise, just that the result didn't quite live up to it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's another away defeat, and it's another gutless performance. I've just come back from honeymoon in Mexico, and I watched the Forest Leeds game with a bunch of Leeds fans in the sports bar at the hotel. And Leeds, I know we played Villa yesterday, but I'll come on to the performances. But the Leeds game, Leeds players were playing like their life depended on it. They were fighting for a city. They were fighting for the fan base. They were smashing into tackles. They were putting the bodies on the line and everything. And Forest, it was gutless. And they just went off the field with a 2-1 defeat. And yesterday was the same. There's, for whatever reason, they will just not have a go. And it's just a gutless, spineless performance. And I just think when that first goal, the first goal was kind of, here we go again. The first half, I thought was pretty solid without being spectacular. And then 2 minutes in the second half, clear your lines. We're not Man City. You were not going to play it out from the back under pressure and then get up the field. Just hit it out for throw, and on the halfway line we can regroup and everything. No, it's just a half-arsed pass to, I think it was Niakhate from Shelvey. And then Traore's just swept the ball in, and he's not going to miss that. A player of his quality, where he's played for Chelsea, Lyon, and obviously is at Villa now. But it's not just the goal what's gone in. As soon as that goal goes in, heads will drop because, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
And that just went towards the away following, because you just, here we go again. And it's the same old making mistakes and everything. And like I said, we was in the game at that point, like I said, without being spectacular. But that goal goes in, heads drop, fans are like, oh, here we go again. And it's hard to rally around them because the writing's on the wall. And with our away form of the season, it's been atrocious, really. But it's just, we just keep shooting ourselves in the foot. And like I says, you got Steve Cooper says, oh, got to stop making mistakes and this, that, and the other. But time's running out for us, unfortunately.
And it was always going to be tough anyway, going to Villa, because they're in really good form and have been for a few weeks now. They seem to be winning most matches and scoring a fair few goals. And I think for us going there, a point would have been a good result. And at half time, I was quite happy with potentially taking a point. So then when you have that moment in the second half where you've basically just thrown away the lead and given it to them, you think, well, here we go again. And it's just making life more difficult for ourselves. We'll come on to the Shelvey moment a little bit later. We'll just take it back to the first half. The team news with the three at the back and Joe Worrell returning as part of that back three. Were you happy with that? Did you see that as a sensible move given the form of the opposition that we were up against?
I do, and it's back to what Steve Cooper's preferred formation is by having wing backs in the three centre halves, and with like Nico Williams, we know he's got his limitations as a right back, but as a right wing back, he's more suited to that. And I thought he had a better game yesterday, and I thought Toffolo was okay in periods, and then the three centre halves of like they can defend. Niakhate's got a bit of pace about him. Felipe's quite composed on the ball, and you got Warloo's had a decent game yesterday, and we've not said that away from home, have we, this season many times? So I think it was Steve Cooper's preferred system to play, and it was working without giving Martinez too much to do or anything. But like I said, as soon as the second half starts, 2 minutes in, we shoot ourselves in the foot, and all that good work has just been undone by a moment of. It's just rubbish, isn't it? Well, I mean, if it was a young lad, you kind of think, oh, he's inexperienced and everything. This is Jonjo Shelvey, who's played over 200 games, and he's played. I think he's played for England and played it like for Newcastle. So he's got pedigree, but it just rubbish, wasn't it? The situation what we just hit it out for like a throw in on the halfway line, and we step up and regroup. But no, you've just gifted them a goal, and here we go again. Same old Forest away from home.
Forest in that first half, I think, did quite well to nullify Villa and keep the home fans quiet as well. That was a positive, even though we couldn't build on it ultimately. 32 minutes, Czech Kouyate pulls up with what looks like a hamstring strain. He goes off and is replaced by Remo Freuler. And again, it looks like this injury curse is continuing, and we lose another player who's just come back from injury. Hopefully it's not too serious, but it looks like we can't keep players on the pitch and keep them fit.
It's like all the good work, what you do in the week. I mean, well, since what would they have had? They would have had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday as a game plan and everything. And that gets thrown out the window because we can't keep players on the pitch. And all right, Freuler's played in the system, so it's not like he's unknown to the system, but it's just like you set up all week and then it's another player. Then obviously Moussa Niakhate goes off at the end of the game, and it's just like I'm not making an excuse because we've not been good enough away from home, but again, something needs to be done in terms of internal investigation of what's keep happening with all these players, whether we're overplaying them because we haven't got that quality and depth. We have to keep playing them, and some at bloody breaking point, and it's like, oh, can we get that little bit more out of them? And because of the Premier League, it's quicker, it's more technical, and we're probably like maybe pushing players a bit too much because there isn't anybody else beyond that, if you know what I mean.
And it creates a vicious circle, doesn't it? Where you have players who are injured, so you're playing other players to cover for those injuries and probably putting those players at more risk of injury. And then the injured players come back, they're replacing more injured players, and it's just a constant cycle that we can't seem to get ourselves out of.
Yeah, and it's been happening all season, hasn't it? I mean, if you look at how the season's gone, 2 games in, Niakhate gets injured, then Awani gets injured, and then we have the World Cup and Kouyate gets injured, and we come back from the World Cup and Henderson is injured. Then we have this game against Fulham and your 2 centre halves are injured. Then you got Lingard, who he hasn't been fit all season, really, has he? So then you got Mangala, who was out for a long amount of time. I think it was after the Everton game. So I'm not making excuses, but because at the end of the day, they are facts. And the spine of our team. When I was walking out the ground with a Villa fan yesterday, and he was like saying, "Do you think you go down?" I says, "Yeah, we're willing." He says, "Oh no, you might stay up." I says, "Well, look at our running." He says, "Oh yeah, bloody hell, it is tough." And I says, then I told it reeling off all the injuries, and he says, "You ain't got a hope, have you?" And I says, "No, we haven't, because the facts are the facts. We've got a really tough running against the likes of Man U, Liverpool, etc." And then you got the injuries on top of that, and you just can't keep doing it. And then you got players who probably haven't been as injured as other players, but they've got to be at breaking point because of how much time they've had to put in. We have like Morgan Gibbs-White, for example. I don't think he's had a real rest, has he? And he hasn't been performing to the best of his capabilities over the last month. But it's just not great, is it?
No, and I have sympathy for Steve Cooper. I think that's been a very difficult job for him to juggle all of the injured players whilst trying to integrate so many new players into the squad this season. I think he's had a very difficult task, and a lot has been said about the number of players that Forest have brought in this season. But I look at it and think if we'd not done that, we'd probably be 10 points adrift at the bottom of the league and completely cut adrift. So it's worked to a degree to keep our head above water, but every time we've been on the brink of getting a settled side together and at a point where Steve Cooper knows his best team, he's lost players through injury, key players, and it's really set us back.
Yeah. And you've got the likes of Ryan Yates, who we've really missed his tenacity in the midfield. He's been out missing. It's just, yeah, he has been given a hard job to do since the summer, integrating all these players. And I just thought yesterday, I'm not saying it's not Steve Cooper's fault, but his role is head coach. He's not manager, he's head coach. So you got all these players in, which I suggest not all were his choices. I don't know who, but I wouldn't say every single one of them players is a Steve Cooper choice. But I just think when you look back a year ago, last Easter weekend, we lost against Luton on Good Friday in controversial circumstances, but then we beat West Brom 4-0 at the City Ground and we absolutely steamrolled them. And everybody seemed to be really connected with the players, with the club, etc. Fast forward a year on, yesterday, I just don't feel connected with this side. It's fragmented. I mean, I know Burnley have just been promoted, and from the moment they've been promoted, they can plan for the Premier League for next season. They've got 7 weeks on what we had.
Yeah,
and I suggest that would make an absolute massive difference. But yeah, I just think yesterday was just. I don't know any inside information or anything like that, but it wouldn't surprise me if certain players are already sorting out moves next year because deep down they probably know that Forest are going to be going to be a Championship club, and they don't want to stick around in the Championship. And I suggest and suspect that some of those players have already got moves lined up, and I just feel like a real disconnect with the team on that field yesterday compared to what it was a year ago. And then on top of that, I just think in the atmosphere in the away section yesterday was rubbish. I just think you got like certain fans who are trying to get an atmosphere going, and there's people there who are just there for the day trip, and it's just really sad. And I think if we are a Championship club next year, you will see a different away following, because the away following are the fans who will go there and watch Forest through thick and thin. And like I says, the atmosphere yesterday it's rubbish. It really was rubbish, and it's just been weird watching Forest away from home this season. Not just because of the performances and the results, but yeah, the atmosphere has been lackluster at best.
In many ways, in contrast to the home atmosphere, which at times has been fantastic and really helped the team get over the line. It's probably explains in some part the Jekyll and Hyde nature of our home and away form. You've got the team performing so well at home and the fans will get behind them. On the road, they're not giving the fans a great deal to shout about. So that's where they find themselves at the minute and why it's so contrasting.
Yeah, there's a few fans near me, and for whatever reason didn't recognise the faces because as people seen and heard, I've been going to away matches for years now, and so you kind of like recognise faces without knowing them on a personal level. And there was a couple of fans near me. Oh, who's Forest number 4? And who's Forest number 15? And I'm like, I just looked to shake my head and thinking, what? Yeah, you've got like I says, there's a small minority. They haven't got a clue what's happening on the field, and you're kind of like the cynical side comes out. How are you getting tickets if you haven't got a clue what's happening on the field? If you don't know who certain players are, and it's not like in the old days, is it? Where like you're looking from, and you see a number 15 or a number 12 with no name on the back, but you got like Worrell and Toffolo, and it's like, how do you not know these players? And you're going to away games, and there'll be some people who are trying to get tickets who have been going for years and can't get tickets because obviously they've been unsuccessful in getting them. And you got people there who haven't got a clue what's going on. It's just a sad indictment of the away population makeup this year.
We'll bring it back onto the pitch just for the time being and wrap up that first half. Villa had 2 chances, specifically Ollie Watkins. He shot his first one wide, and then the second, it was a near post effort following a cross. It looks like it was saved by Navas, giving us a goal kick. Forest had a moment down the right-hand side. Nico Williams was played in by Morgan Gibbs-White. His cross was cleared, and Kouyate's shot deflected wide. And that was the real chance, if you like, that Forest had in the first half. But it was 0-0 at half-time. And at that point, I think we were reasonably happy with the way that the game stood. And Villa had not done too much, certainly hadn't tested Navas or really put us under significant pressure. And it felt at that point like it was a platform for Forest to build on. But 2 minutes into the second half, Jonjo Shelvey, it was Bertrand Traore. He had got free down the right-hand side, put a cross in. Navas palmed it out. It comes to Jonjo Shelvey, who, I have no idea why, tries to play a 5-yard pass to Niakhate, who's in the 6-yard box. It rolls straight to Traore, who tucks it into the bottom corner. Shelvey's looking at Niakhate and almost blaming him for it. I don't think anybody in the stadium would have agreed with that, because that one is purely on Jonjo Shelvey's shoulders. What was he thinking?
I haven't got a clue, and it's like, because it's how quick it happened with Traore having the initial shot and Navas palming it out. You have not, I don't care if you played at the Premier League, Champions League, or playing for the Dog and Duck on a Sunday morning. Jonjo Shelvey hasn't got a clue what's around him. He can't have, because it's happening so quick. And it's just like, it doesn't even get to the intended target, really, does it?
No.
It's like a half-assed pass to him, and it's like, just, we're not Man City. We're not playing this ball like it's not going to be bang, bang, bang through the midfield and into Haaland or whatever. We're not in Forest at the arse end of the Premier League. Just play it out, corner, throw in. Just like use your left foot and just hit it out. Even though it's probably your weaker side, just hit it out and we regroup. No, he's I don't know what he's thinking, but it's basically, we've shot ourselves in the foot by gifting them. If it was like John McGinn, he's picked it up and he's hit a worldie from 25 yards in and it's gone into top corner, or they've like one-touch passing, they've passed it around, and then Watkins, you can hold your hands up and thinking that's a great goal.
Yeah.
But Forest have got to help themselves. It's not the first time, is it? We've said, I think this has been the narrative all the way through the season, away from home. We cannot keep giving teams a leg up. And what do? We give them a leg up. And not only we've gifted them a 1-0 lead, the mentality just saps, because it's like the fragility around the team thinking, oh, here we go again. We've gifted them a goal. We're not prolific scorers on the road. And not only the players' heads drop because of the fragile mentality they've got away from home, but then that transpires into the stand where the away, it's like, here we go again. Yeah. It's like, I'm not saying I'm the big I am, and I've gone through every single away game this season, and as soon as the goal goes in, that's it, because you know what's going to happen. Like at Spurs, the first goal when Harry Kane scores, I mean, all right, Spurs are a decent side, but at that point in their season, they were camel fodder. In terms of it was toxic around their stadium with the fan base and with Conte on the brink and everything. And we'll give them a leg up. And you're kind of thinking, here we go again. And it's hard to it's not down to individuals, but as a fan base, it's hard to G yourself up because you think, oh, here we go again. It's Forest have shot themselves in the foot, and you just know which way the game's going to go from there on because we don't score away from home. If Jonjo Shelvey just hit it for a corner or throwing, and we'll regroup, but no, we're giving them a leg up.
And Steve Cooper can't legislate for that. I have sympathy for him because the individual mistakes that we've made this season, more specifically so on the road, you can do all the coaching, you can set the team up, get the tactics in place, whatever you need to do. You can't legislate for Shelvey rolling the ball to a striker in the middle of their penalty area in front of goal.
Yeah, if you look at that team yesterday, it was set up pretty well in the first half. We didn't really threaten, but we're not going to threaten with how we're playing. We'll probably give them a lot of the ball. We dig in, we get 11 men behind the ball, and we're solid. In the first half, we were solid. And the game plan, I suspect the game plan would have been yesterday, get to 60 minutes, keep it at 0-0, and we'll have a go from there and see if we can create any openings, but try and keep it as it is. But we'll give them a goal. Then you lose a player through injury. So then certain players, then you're trying to chase the game. Then you disrupt the whole shape of your team because you're trying to get something from the game because you have to. And yeah, just in the last couple of away games, well, probably more than that, but we'll go a goal down and you're trying to try and get something. You're trying to change it, trying to get a bit of impetus in the game. And the whole shape is completely disrupted by letting in a goal or an injury, and it's just so by the time 80 minutes comes, it's kind of we're done here because of the injuries and how much disruptions happened in the shape of our team. It's the writing's on the wall. But there's this thing at the moment which I've noticed in the last couple of games. So, it's happened in which game? I think it was the Leeds game, and yeah, it was the Leeds game where you look at it and think, all right, they were 2-1 up on 49 minutes, and you're thinking, okay, we've got 40 minutes to get something. And the next minute, you look at the clock, 79 minutes have gone. And you realise what Forest actually done in the second half. And too many games this season, the second half have absolutely passed us by. And we're just running out of time to do anything in the game when we realise, oh, it's 79 minutes. We've only got, 15 minutes at best to get something from the game.
Yeah. And when we're chasing, we do struggle to pin teams back.
Yeah.
You know how Wolves did to us at the City ground a few weeks ago. Now, I think the Wolves goal was fortunate, but it came from a period of pressure where they pinned us back in our own half. And we don't seem capable of doing that to opposition teams, especially away from home. And it leads to that point where 25, 30 minutes of a game passes by without a hell of a lot happening. And before you know it, it's too late to do anything.
Yeah, and I was a bit critical of, we've got the 1-0, and we've been really fortunate to sit on one goal leads this season. Obviously, we've had West Ham earlier in the season where, to be honest, on another day, they would have battered us if luck was on their side. Got a 1-0 there. Liverpool, it was 1-0. Palace 1-0. Leeds 1-0, and it wasn't until late in the second half against Leicester where we got that second goal. And we've been sitting on 1-0 leads, and for whatever reason, we're scared to actually keep doing the same things. We played Wolves last week, and we bring Worrell on, and I'm not saying Worrell was the catalyst for not getting maximum points out of that game, but what you do is, if you bring another defender on, you're inviting pressure on. And I mean, I would have brought a Wani on and just try and keep the ball at the other end of the field. But we've got this thing at the moment where we stop doing the good things. Against Leeds, we look relatively decent. When we had that, when Mangala scored, then we pack up playing. And yesterday, we looked really solid in the first half. Then we lack of concentration, make a mistake, give them a goal, and it's just. We'll just start. There's a couple of things. What's happening is that we start playing when we're playing well, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a scared thing, like keep what we've got if it's a positive, and then we'll keep giving teams a leg up, and that's why we're where we are in the league at the moment.
On 65 minutes, Forest made 2 changes, with Worrell and Shelvey going off and Awoniyi and Mangala coming on, and Forest went to a back 4 and put more bodies up front. They had a few moments. Morgan Gibbs-White, he picked the ball up on the left, cut inside and beat Ashley Young, but his shot was over the bar. Danilo then broke through and had an effort, but fairly comfortable for Emi Martinez in the Villa goal. And then the bigger chance, I think, was when Awoniyi got got clear onto a through ball. Looked like he might have just got there, but Martinez beat him to the chase. And if Awoniyi can just knock that past the keeper and he's through on goal with an empty net, who knows what happens? We might get 1-1 and things play out a little differently. But as it was, Forest couldn't find that equaliser. And then 78 minutes, Andre Ayew comes on for Danilo, which I don't think was a very effective substitution. I didn't see a lot that Ayew did. But then to compound Forest misery, a few minutes later, Niakhate limped off and Forest couldn't make another sub because, as I understand it, while you have 5 substitutions available, you have 3 substitution windows in which to complete those 5 substitutions. So Forest had used up the 3 windows already and didn't have the opportunity to bring somebody on for Niakhate, and thus ended up playing the last 10 minutes or so with 10 men.
Yeah, it's a stupid rule, isn't it? I just think the competitiveness of a football match should be 11 on 11. If you made your 5 subs and somebody goes off injured, I get that. And if somebody gets sent off, obviously I get that. But this is a stupid rule, isn't it? Whoever's brought that in, because what happens if you, like what happened with us a couple of weeks ago against Fulham, where 2 players go off at the same time? You're down to 9.
Yeah.
Surely that affects the integrity of the competition, of an unfair bias of, I think it's a stupid rule. I really do. It's up there with that stupid rule when with linesmen, they don't put the flag up until the very last minute, and somebody can get like really injured there if he's like running through on goal and gets clattered with the goalkeeper. Just put your flag up, and you know what I mean. There's a stupid rule regarding that window. Whoever's thought of that must be on something that day.
Funnily enough, on the offside rule, and in this game, I think it was Brennan Johnson was getting free down the right-hand side. Danilo was in there as well, but the linesman immediately flagged one of them offside when Forest potentially had a chance to be through on goal with players getting in behind.
Yeah, I wasn't privy to watching it on a stream or anything because I was obviously at the game yesterday at Villa Park. But I just had a suspicion that because the Doug Ellis stand is, it's south facing, I think. So the sun is in the Lino's eyes on our side. And he's kept shielding his eyes, and I'm like thinking, is he guessing here? Because no way, because he kept shielding his eyes, and he was like, you could see he was squinting. And I'm like thinking, how are you getting these decisions? You cannot be 100% right if you're doing all of that just to try and get a view. But then I'll put it on Twitter, and someone says, "Oh no, all the offsides have been bang on." So, and I haven't seen those pictures, but like I says, it didn't. The offsides didn't really affect the game to a point yesterday, did they? Because obviously we didn't hit the back of the net.
No, and it was Villa who did once again late on in injury time. Ollie Watkins, who's been in fine form recently, got a goal. He had the ball outside the box, was dribbling across the front of the penalty area. It then comes back to him off a Forest player. He sidesteps player in the box. and lifts the ball past Navas as he's trying to narrow the angle. That was 2-0, and it was game over and confirmation of another defeat on the road for Forest, which, when combined with results elsewhere, means that Forest are in the relegation zone on goal difference. We'll leave it there for the moment, and we'll now hear the opposition view on the game. And joining us now from the Aston Villa fan channel, For the Love of Paul McGrath, here's Neil.
Hello everybody, my name is Neil from For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. I was obviously an Aston Villa fan, and I was at the game against Forest today. Couple of takeaways I think from it as well, that you guys were really well structured, and I don't want to patronise any Forest fans. I hope that isn't what this comes across as. I've great time for Forest as a team, and I think that you guys could do massive things staying in the Premier League, and I hope that once again doesn't sound patronising, but I think Steve Cooper got things right today. He really frustrated Aston Villa. Villa had a lot of the ball, and we had a lot of possession, but I think that Forest looked really resolute in possession and out of possession as well. I've got a soft spot for your defensive midfielder. Didn't start today for Fruder. I really think he's a really good player, and when he came on, I thought he did a lot of good things for Forest. But Villa got the 2 goals, and they got goals when they kind of needed them. Obviously, the first one was from our maverick, Bertrand Traore. I'm not even sure he knew he was crossing the ball when he crossed it, and it bounced back to him and he puts it right in by the post. And I think Forest can feel a small bit aggrieved by that at times, because I think they defended really well. Villa, as I said, Villa had a lot of the ball, and that was something that just kind of materialised out of nowhere. And then Ollie Watkins puts it to bed. Probably should have been tackled, probably should have had the ball cleared. The ball came back to him, and he sticks it in the back of the net. But Nottingham Forest it wasn't an easy day for Aston Villa, and once again I say that from a position of positivity about Nottingham Forest, because when you come in an away game, you want to make it difficult. You want to come in, you want to dig in your heels, and Forest got everything like that right. And I saw a couple of comments from Steve Cooper afterwards where he said Villa didn't really threaten, and I can't disagree with that. I really can't. We didn't really threaten at all. We had 2 opportunities, we put them away. You guys had an opportunity when I can't remember who it was through on goal, and Emi Martinez saves through his legs. And then there was another opportunity where you guys caught Villa's high line, and a ball went over the top, and Martinez had to be right off his line to come out and clear it. So there was opportunities at both sides. There was limited opportunities at both sides, and it really was a game of cat and mouse in the middle of midfield. Which I think Aston Villa kind of came out and top of for a finish, because I thought John McGinn was pretty good today. I thought that Tyrone Mings was pretty good today, but there's some good Forest performances out there as well. As I say, 2-0 probably flattered Aston Villa. I think any rational Villa fan will say 2-0 flattered them. But I hope you don't mind me saying, we are on a crest of a wave at the moment, and 2-0, we're in 6th place at the moment. Getting to 6th place, I wish it wasn't at the expense of a team like Nottingham Forest, a team with massive history, a team that I really like. There's a slight connection there as well, going back to the days of Martin O'Neill when he managed Aston Villa. Obviously, Martin O'Neill being a Forest legend, and John Robertson and all that. And I'm a big fan of traditional football teams with history, football teams with pedigree and stuff like that, and Nottingham Forest are surely one of those. And I certainly, as a Villa fan, will be rooting for Nottingham Forest to stave off the drop.
Football Social Daily.
This week on Football Social Daily, we've been speaking to former Premier League defender Roger Johnson. Roger was as tough as they come and very nearly died after a horrific neck injury.
He done me off the ball, coward, caught me across the larynx, and the surgeon said to me, he was like, "Luke, I've never seen this injury on a living person." Extremely lucky.
You can hear the full story behind that moment, and indeed what it was like to beat Arsenal at Wembley with Birmingham City in 2011 by listening to the full edition of Football Social Daily, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Football Social Daily, the Premier League podcast.
1865 Match Report.
Thanks, Neil. So next up for Forest, it's a home game against Manchester United next Sunday. This game was moved back a day because United are playing European football in midweek. For Forest, Tom, it's a home game, and despite the quality of opposition and the fact that we've been unable to beat United this season over the 3 games we've already played against them, on paper it looks like another defeat potentially, but at home I'm hopeful that Forest can at least give a better account of themselves and have a go and just see what happens on the day.
Yeah, it'd be a typical Forest performance, whereas as bad as they've been over the last couple of games, they will go and get something next Sunday. It's just a typical Forest thing. And the good thing about it, I don't think Rashford's going to be fit, is he? He limped off yesterday against Everton. And he's really been the thorn in our side when we played Man U over the 2 Carabao Cup legs and the league game just after Christmas. So, but obviously we've got other quality in there with Casemiro, etc. So, but yeah, I just would like to see Forest have a go like they did against Liverpool. And yeah, you never know. I like it says that it's the hope what kills you. And the thing is, nothing's been determined. All right, it's going to be an incredibly difficult game with the quality Man United have got, but there's always a chance, and we're at home, so you don't know what might happen. So, I mean, we've done all right against the top sides, haven't we, this season? We've got 1-1 against, well, they're not really a top side this season, but we've got a 1-1 against Chelsea, beat Liverpool, got 1-1 against Man City. We did all right up until like the 91st minute against Newcastle to a point, because I think we would have got a point there if it wasn't for that stupid handball given away. And all right, we lost against Spurs earlier in the season, but you just don't know. And if Rashford's out, it's a massive boost for us, because I think without his goals, I don't think Man U will be in the position where they are this season, because he's been in outstanding form, and he's probably like been pound for pound this season on current form. He's probably been one of the best strikers in Europe, if not the world.
He has, yeah. And from the Forest point of view, the next 2 fixtures at home to Man United and away to Liverpool, if you're looking at it realistically, we're probably still going to be in the relegation zone after those 2 fixtures. But Forest at home are a very different side this season to the team that turns up away. So there's a chance that Forest could get a positive result. And I do think we've got a surprise result still in us to come. Whether that's a win here against Man United or a win at Chelsea, I think we've still got a big result in us to come. And why not think that it could happen next Sunday?
I think you've got to think, haven't you? Because you've got to G yourself up and try and generate an atmosphere in there to help the players along. If the writing's already on the wall, it's like, well, what's the point in turning up? So we've got to like dig in somewhere as a fan base and have that belief that, yeah, something might happen next Sunday against Man United. So, but it's the thing with football fans, isn't it? It's always the hope what kills you.
I think it's that hope that is going to keep us going this season, particularly now that we have dropped into the bottom 3. You've just got to hope that there's enough going on above you, that teams take points off one another in that bottom 8, bottom 9, and that Forest can find some form from somewhere and some results, because law of averages would suggest that we've got to turn this form around at some point and start picking up some points again, particularly wins more so, because I think that's really what we're going to need to do now to claw ourselves out of the bottom 3. In terms of formations, tactics, personnel, what are you hoping to see from Forest next week against Man United?
I would like them to play with an actual striker, i.e. Awani, because we've tried it so many times this season with not playing a striker. Like yesterday, Johnson and Gibbs White was playing, then we had that front 3 of Lingard, Gibbs White and Johnson, and it hasn't really worked, has it, really? And when we have played a striker, it wasn't great when he come on yesterday. Whether the rest of the players were too far away from him to actually give him anything. Apart from that, he had a couple of chances, didn't he, where he went through and I think he saw Martinez coming. I think he half bottled it, to be honest, because he let Martinez just get a clean sweep of the ball and clear it away from the Villa goal. Then there was that one where he went through. Then he's like wondering what to do, kind of thing, and then he passed it out onto the far side, and it went back, and you're thinking we was on like a 1-on-1 there. So, but I think he needs to get back to match sharpness, and yeah, I'd like to play a striker next week, and probably keep hopefully Niakhate's injury is not as bad as, but if he doesn't play, you got McKenna, who's a left-footed centre half. So I'd like to keep, and hopefully Ori be back. And hopefully Loddie's back, because the fullbacks has probably been our biggest. Apart from like Johnson getting the goals, I think it's been a massive positive for our fullbacks. I think that's been the most settled area of the pitch this season, with Loddy at left back and Ori at right back. So hopefully them two are back. And the midfield, we know Kouyate is not going to be fit. I'd like to see Traore, Danilo and Yates in there, because I think that three will work. Like, you got Traore just behind them, obviously you can pull them about and be the organiser, and the tenacity of Danilo and Yates in there. Then obviously Awani, hopefully, and Gibbs White and Johnson. I think that will be the nucleus of a decent side, and hopefully getting something against Man United next week.
Yep, fingers crossed. Thanks, Tom. We will leave our match report there. Thank you also to our Aston Villa fan, Neil, for joining us and offering the opposition view on this game. We will be back with you next weekend with our report following the Manchester United match. So until then, thank you for listening and goodbye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.